I was kneeling outside the ICU, begging for money to save my son, while he was at Disneyland, buying necklaces for someone else's daughter, riding the Ferris wheel, and having her call him daddy. My bank account had only 3.7 left. The doctor said that if I didn't pay, the medication would be stopped, but he said over the phone, "You can have another kid if this one's gone." At that moment, I didn't cry, and I didn't beg anymore. I saved every receipt and bill for the jewelry and trips he bought for his mistress and her daughter. Every video of domestic violence. I signed the divorce papers and disappeared with my child. Later, he was vilified online, his career destroyed, and he begged me to come back on his knees, but I was already holding my child by the sea, with not a single interest in even glancing at him. The hospital lights were harsh, glaring red. The letters ICU glowed at the end of the corridor like the eyes of a monster. I knelt for the 6th time, grabbing the doctor's white coat. "Please save him. Please save him first. I'll pay. I swear I will." Inside was Ethan, my son, 6 years old. High fever and convulsions, rushed straight into the intensive care unit. The doctor took half a step back, his voice cold. "The system has flagged your account for overdue payment. If it's not paid by AM tomorrow, all non-emergency medications will be stopped." I fumbled for my phone, my fingers shaking so badly I couldn't hit the right buttons. Jason's number. First call, no answer. Second, 7 rings. Then hung up. Third, taking a deep breath. I dialed again. He picked up. Background noise. Cheerful music, mixed with children screaming and laughing. Familiar, the Disneyland theme song, "Grace." "I'm really busy right now." Jason's voice low, impatient. "Ethan's in the ICU," I said, my voice trembling. "We need to pay immediately. I've used up all my savings. And you?" "I'm with a client." He interrupted harshly. "A very important client. Can you stop bothering me with your kid?" "I'm not an ATM." "But the doctor said they're going to stop." "Then let them stop. Figure it out yourself. This is a critical month for my promotion review. Don't ruin my future." A little girl's saccharine voice came through the line. "Uncle Jason, the Ferris wheel's opening. Come on." Jason's voice softened instantly. "Okay, sweetie, I'm coming." Then back to me, cold as ice. "Don't call again." Busy tone. I held the phone, the corridor's cold white light shining on my face. My ears were full of Disneyland music and that voice. "Uncle Jason." The doctor approached, handing me a prescription. Imported specialty medication. Good for lung protection, but it costs 20 times more than regular meds. A nurse whispered beside him, "And it's not covered by insurance." I looked at the number, 50,000 one shot. My bank account balance, 372. I remembered Ethan struggling to breathe yesterday, his little face turning purple. I remembered the doctor saying, "This time his lung function is severely compromised. There may be lasting effects." Lasting effects? My son just 6 years old. Use it. I handed the prescription back to the doctor, my voice steady now. "Give him the best." The doctor glanced at me, surprised, but nodded. "And the cost? I'll handle it." I walked alone to the payment window. The system's red light blinked. Ethan's name was first on the overdue list, followed by a string of cold numbers. I signed every risk acknowledgement form, critical condition notice, consent for high-cost medication, emergency authorization. Every single one signed only by me. The pen scratched the paper. When I laid down the last signature, something inside me snapped. The man riding the Ferris wheel with another child. I didn't want him anymore. I rushed home, tearing through drawers. Cash none. Dollars none. Even Jason's emergency envelopes were empty. Finally, at the bottom of his study drawer, I found a hard file folder. Inside were stacks of credit card receipts. First, Tiffany necklace, 48,000. Note, Sophia's birthday gift. Second, Gucci children's dress, 22,000. Note, Sophia's daughter's first birthday party. Third, luxury parent-child Maldives trip, 79,000. Last month, precisely the week Ethan was hospitalized for pneumonia for the 3rd time, when I called him to come, he said, "Project Sprint. Can't leave." Under the receipts was a photo, blue sea, white sand. Jason holding a little girl in a pink princess dress, smiling adoringly, next to him. Sophia clinging to his arm, head on his shoulder, and me. Last month, when Ethan was slightly better, I said we could go to the seaside for fresh air. I picked the cheapest coastal town nearby. Train hard seats, stayed in a small family inn. Jason yelled over the phone, You've already spent enough on the kid's treatment, now you're wasting money going out. Are you insane? My hand holding the receipts trembled with cold. It wasn't that there was no money. It was that the money was only for someone else's child. I took my phone and photographed every receipt, every note, every glaring photo. When the camera focused, my hands were unnaturally steady. These papers, these smiles, these cold numbers. They would all become knives driven back into your hearts. The specialty medicine worked for 3 days. Ethan's fever broke, but lung noises remained. The doctor called me into his office, expression grave. The child's response to the current medication is limited. We recommend another imported drug, more effective, but it puts some strain on the kidneys and needs close monitoring. And how much? He told me a number. I closed my eyes. Twice as much as the previous dose. Use it. I heard myself say, monitor him. Use the best. The nurse looked at me, hesitated, and finally just gave a sympathetic glance. I went to the stairwell and called Jason again. This time, it rang for a long time before picking up. A woman's voice, lazy, dripping with condescending amusement. Grace, right? Jason's in the shower. I can take a message, Sophia. CEO of Juwan Group. Jason's important client, he was desperate to impress. I need Jason about my son. Enough. She cut me off, her laugh cold. Stop using your kid to grab a man's attention. As a housewife, broaden your perspective. Jason's at a peak in his career. You can't help him. So at least don't get in the way. I dug my fingernails into my palm. Ethan's in the ICU. He needs money to survive. Jason is his father. It's his responsibility. Responsibility? Sophia scoffed. Having a sick kid is a responsibility now. Jason told me that kid is weak. Always in the hospital, he's basically a bottomless pit. Honestly, you should just. The phone seemed to be snatched away. Jason's voice came through, damp with anger. Grace, when will you stop? What are you telling Sophia? Ethan needs money for medication 10000. Right now, 10000. He shouted. You think I print money? I told you I don't have it. Not a dime. If the kid dies, you can have another. I only have this one shot at a promotion. I slid down the cold wall slowly until I was sitting on the floor. From the other end came a faint, clear little girl's voice. Daddy, I'm done bathing. Come tell me a story. Daddy? She called him Daddy. Jason's tone changed instantly, gentle and smiling. Okay, sweetie, Daddy's coming. Then back to the phone, cold and resolute. Don't call again. Annoying, busy tone again. I sat on the floor. The motion sensor lights in the stairwell went out, leaving me in darkness. That last flicker of warmth inside me seemed to vanish with the word daddy, cooling completely, shattering into dust, wiped clean, all expectations, all fantasies, all feelings. Ethan woke up, his little face still pale, but his eyes bright. He looked at me and whispered, Mom, did Daddy not want me anymore? I choked, unable to speak. He reached out his uninjected hand and touched my face. Mom, don't cry, I don't want Daddy anymore. That afternoon, a nurse came again demanding payment. Less polite this time. I turned to figure out another way. And when I came back, I saw Ethan holding my old phone, clumsily pressing numbers. He was calling Jason. I rushed over to snatch it from him. But I heard Ethan's voice, unnervingly calm. The nurse came again asking for money. Mom said there isn't any. Do you have it? I couldn't make out the faint voice on the other end. Ethan was quiet for a few seconds, then said, Oh, never mind then. Suddenly, a sharp little girl's voice came through the speaker, loud enough for me to hear. Your daddy is mine now. You and your mom are poor. Blah blah blah. Ethan's face paled, but he didn't cry. He spoke slowly and clearly into the phone, word by word. I don't want your trash. You can have it. Then he hung up and handed the phone back to me, looking up. Mom, I'm hungry. I held him tightly, shivering all over. I didn't know if it was anger or heartbreak. My 6-year-old son had already, more decisively than I could, cut that bloodline. That night, I lay awake staring at the hospital ceiling. The account was completely empty. Tomorrow, the medication would stop. I was trapped. Suddenly, a figure flashed in my mind, Anna. My best friend in college, who went abroad after graduation to work in publishing, who once said my paintings had spirit. How many years had it been since we last spoke? 5, 6. I pulled out my phone and logged into that long-abandoned social account. It took 3 tries to get the password right. Anna's profile picture still glowed in the friends list. Trembling, I sent a message. Anna, it's Grace. I'm in trouble. I need some money to save my child. Can I sell you something? Anna didn't reply, but the next morning, a transfer large enough to cover all expenses appeared in the hospital account. The note simply said, "Use it first." I froze in front of the payment window, tears finally falling. Ethan got the new medication, stabilized, and was moved to a regular ward. Just when I thought I could finally catch my breath, Jason stormed in, furious. He shoved the hospital room door open, his voice shaking the entire hallway. "Grace, what did you teach Ethan to say?" Sophia's daughter cried all night. Ethan on the bed shivered in fear. I stood up and blocked him. "This is a hospital. The child needs quiet. Quiet? What about when you teach him to call someone garbage?" He pointed at my nose, spittle almost hitting my face. "I'm telling you, Sophia is very unhappy. If my promotion fails, it's your fault." Nearby family members peeked, and a nurse rushed over. I looked at this raging man in front of me and felt a strange sense of unfamiliarity. "Jason," I said, my voice eerily calm, "let's get a divorce." He froze, then laughed as if I'd just told the world's biggest joke. "Divorce? What can you even divorce me with? You're a housewife. Without me, how long do you think you'll survive? Who's paying for Ethan's treatments? Heir?" He grew more scornful. "Don't even think about custody. A sickly kid, a burden. I'm not taking him. I want mommy." Ethan suddenly jumped off the bed, bare feet on the cold floor, standing in front of me, staring up at Jason. "I don't want you. You're bad." Jason's face flushed red. Being defied by his own son shattered his pride. "You little brat. You dared defy me." He raised his hand, about to hit Ethan. Without thinking, I lunged forward and held Ethan tightly. That slap landed heavily on my cheek. Smack. The sharp sound echoed in the ward. My ears rang, my cheek burned. Ethan sobbed violently in my arms. "I'm calling the police. I'm calling the police. You hit mommy," he cried. Jason froze, staring at his hand. At that moment, the nurse who had rushed in earlier grabbed Jason and shouted, "Sir, this is a hospital. You're committing domestic violence. We have it on camera. Security. Call security. Call the police." The reversal happened so fast, panic flashed across Jason's face. He tried to explain, but the security guards had already rushed in. The nurse quickly typed into the medical record system, "Family member, Jason Chen, committed violence against his wife in the ward. Video evidence available. Police notified." Security escorted Jason out. He cursed all the way but didn't dare touch anyone again. I covered my face, holding Ethan, watching his figure disappear down the corridor. My cheek hurt, but somewhere inside me, I felt a release. The police came and took a statement, with video evidence. Jason was formally warned and the record filed. He never returned to the hospital. A week later, Ethan was discharged. I took him back to that cold, empty home. Anna's money had solved the immediate crisis, but she was overseas. I couldn't rely on her forever. I needed a long-term plan. I gathered myself and sent Jason a message. "Come home tomorrow night. We need to discuss the divorce and Ethan's custody." He replied quickly, "Okay." Coincidentally, I also have something to discuss with you. The next evening, the doorbell rang. I opened the door. Jason stood there, and at his side, holding his arm, smiling brightly, was Sophia. She wore a Chanel suit, carried a Hermes bag expensive from head to toe. Her eyes flicked over my faded home clothes with a hint of contempt. "Grace, I heard Ethan was discharged. Thought I'd come see him," she said, feigning concern, stepping toward the door. No entry. Ethan suddenly ran out from the living room, arms outstretched to block the doorway, his little face tense. "This is my home. No bad people allowed." Jason's face darkened. "Ethan, how rude. This is Aunt Sophia. She's not an aunt. She's the bad person who stole Daddy," Ethan yelled, eyes red. "Asshole." Jason raised his hand again. I pulled Ethan behind me, coldly staring at them. "If you want to talk, only you to go in." "She no." Sophia's smile froze. Jason, humiliated especially in front of Sophia, turned furious. He pointed at my nose. "Grace, don't take me for a fool. Sophia is the most important person in my life. I'll bring whoever I want into this house." "Most important?" I laughed. "So the most important person's daughter calls you daddy. The most important person charges tens of thousands on jewelry for her daughter. The most important person makes you ride the Ferris wheel with her kid while your son is critically ill." Jason was left speechless. Sophia tugged at his arm and said softly, "Forget it, Jason. Don't bother with them. Looks like Grace isn't in a good mood today." Her words said one thing, but her eyes, full of provocation, said another. Jason's anger flared even more. he unleashed all the humiliation he felt at the hospital and in front of Sophia. He raised his hand again, this time with full force, smack, harder and louder than the slap in the hospital. I was hit, my head snapping to the side, blood at the corner of my mouth, vision darkening, almost losing balance. Mom, Ethan screamed, heart-wrenching as he lunged and clung to my legs, then turned to Jason, yelling, I hate you, I hate you, I'm calling the police, you're going to jail. Chaos filled the room, my ears rang, Ethan cried. Jason's heavy breathing filled the air. Jason seemed shocked at the force of his own slap, frozen in place. Sophia, seizing the moment, leaned close to my ear and whispered, just for us, see that? He can't live without me. What can you even compete with? I wiped the blood from my mouth and looked at her delicate face. So close then, I smiled. My face was swollen, smiling hurt, but I forced a clear curve. I said to her, then please, make him sign the divorce papers quickly, that trash. I've completely thrown it away. After that slap, Jason and I were reconcilably at odds. He didn't apologize, only sent a text, custody is yours. I won't pay a penny in child support. The house is premarital property. You walk away with nothing. Sign the papers quickly. Don't hold me or Sophia up. I read it and deleted it immediately. Walk away with nothing? Dream on. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened the chat with Anna. Over the past week, we'd talked across continents. She had seen my college sketches and the secret comics I made of Ethan growing up. Grace, you have talent and a story, Anna said excitedly on the phone. Turn these drawings into a picture book about a single mother and her sick child, warm and strong. I can use my connections to get the best advance and royalties for you. I worked 3 sleepless nights to organize the story outline and a dozen sample illustrations. Anna was efficient. 3 days later, any publishing contract arrived. The advance was enough for Ethan and me to live comfortably in another city for a year. I signed without hesitation. With that money, I paid off all hospital bills, including the full cost of the medical reports I insisted on after Jason slapped me. Then, I did 3 things. First, I transferred Ethan to a new school. Second, I booked the earliest tickets to a southern coastal city. Third, I pulled my old SIM card and tossed it into the hospital trash. On discharge day, Jason didn't show up. Maybe he thought we'd beg him to come back. He was wrong. The taxi drove straight to the airport. Ethan pressed against the window, watching the city shrink behind us, and softly asked, Mom, are we not coming back? No, I said, patting his head. We're going to a place with the sea, sunshine, and clean air. You can run on the beach every day and never smell hospital disinfectant again. As the plane soared into the clouds, I looked down at the city that had trapped me for 7 years. No nostalgia, only relief. Life in the seaside town was simple and peaceful. The warm, humid air was naturally healing. Ethan's coughing lessened, his cheeks rosy. I rented a seaside apartment with a small yard using the advance. I picked up my brushes again, turning those painful, warm, and struggling days into lines and colors. When the first picture book, Ethan's Stars and Sea, was finished, Ethan ran on the beach toward the sunset, laughing brightly. I watched from the balcony and, for the first time in 7 years, truly smiled. Meanwhile, Jason, finding his calls never went through, the house empty, and the school saying the child had been transferred, finally panicked. He used all his connections to search, but found nothing. Ethan and I had disappeared completely like 2 drops of water into the crowd. What he lost wasn't just a burdened child and a nagging wife. What he lost were the last 2 people in this world who had genuinely considered him family at first. My disappearance didn't cause much of a ripple in Jason's world. He was too busy catering to Sophia and her daughter Cindy, dreaming that through this marriage he would rise to the top, become the ideal son-in-law of the Juan group, and maybe even hold real power in the future. He moved into Sophia's luxury penthouse downtown. He quit his old job and jumped into the Juan group, landing a well-paying director position. Sophia seemed pleased with him, or at least in public. She always held his arm and smiled sweetly. Cindy called him daddy affectionately. Jason became giddy. He thought he had reached the peak of his life. That sick child wife had vanished voluntarily. It was practically divine intervention. He began to act like the future son-in-law of the Zhuo family, bossing subordinates around, micromanaging projects, splurging Sophia's allowance on luxury watches and cars, and hanging out at high-end clubs. But the good times didn't last. Sophia was a woman with extreme control. She wanted a compliant puppet, not a self-willed man of the house. The first clash happened at an important family dinner. Jason had a few too many drinks, and in front of Sophia's father, the venerable Chairman Zhuo, he rambled about his grand vision for the company's future, even subtly criticizing some of the senior executives as outdated. Chairman Zhuo listened expressionless, never interrupting. But his gaze grew colder with every passing minute. Under the table, Sophia stomped hard on Jason's foot. The second incident was over. Taking care of Cindy, Sophia went on a business trip, leaving her daughter with Jason. Cindy, spoiled and demanding, was difficult. Jason tried to play the kind dad, indulging her without limits. When she wanted ice cream late at night, he ignored the nanny's warnings and bought it. Cindy ended up with gastroenteritis and had to be taken to the hospital in the middle of the night. Sophia flew back immediately and slapped Jason in the hospital corridor. Can't even look after a child. Useless. The real tipping point came on a rainy night. Jason, mentally distracted, was frustrated. His private detective couldn't trace Grace or Ethan anywhere. They had vanished without a trace. It made him restless, anxious, with an inexplicable emptiness gnawing at him. Cindy was riding her scooter in the living room while Jason sat lost on the sofa. "Daddy, watch me," Cindy shouted. Jason snapped back to reality only to see her skid and head straight toward the sharp corner of the marble coffee table. He panicked and lunged but was a step too late. Bang! Cindy's forehead hit the corner solidly, blood gushing as she screamed. That night, in the ER, Sophia watched as her daughter received 5 stitches. Listening to the nanny's exaggerated retelling, her face darkened with fury. After the stitches, they returned home already past midnight. Standing in the lavish yet icy cold living room, Sophia pointed to the door at the drenched, disheveled Jason and said only one thing: "Get out, now." Jason was stunned. "Sophia, let me explain." "It was an accident." "Explain?" Sophia sneered, pulling a check from her bag and tossing it in his face. "Take your hard-earned pay and disappear. Don't go to the office tomorrow, you're fired." The check landed on the floor. The amount was not small, but compared to the Zhuo family empire, it was a drop in the ocean. "Sophia, you can't do this." Oui. Sophia cut him off, looking at him like he was trash. "Do you think you're something? Just a tool I'm done with. Now get out." Security came and promptly escorted him away. Standing in the pouring rain, Jason was soaked, clutching the cold check, staring at the closed gates of the mansion, feeling the first real chill and panic. He remembered the lawyer urging him to sign the divorce papers days earlier. He had scoffed. Sure, Grace would come back begging eventually, and he could dictate the terms now. He regretted it. If he had signed earlier, at least half of the marital assets, that house, now significantly appreciated. Too late. Kicked out by Sophia and fired. Jason hit the lowest point of his life. The mansion gone, the luxury car repossessed, the high-paying job lost, former friends no longer picking up his calls. He rented a small apartment, staring at the dwindling balance in his account, anxious and restless. What stung most was the psychological fall from prospective elite son-in-law to a homeless loser in just a few months. He blamed it all on Grace. If she hadn't suddenly disappeared with the kid, distracting him, he wouldn't have messed up taking care of Cindy. He wouldn't have angered Sophia. Yes, it was all that woman's fault. Blinded by rage and resentment, Jason made a ridiculous decision. He posted a long article on a verified social media account. Title: 7 years of effort gone. Heartless wife disappears with child, leaving me drowning in debt. In it, he painted himself as a hard-working, devoted man betrayed by a cold, selfish wife. He claimed Grace ignored the family, was paranoid and wasteful, and after Ethan recovered, heartlessly took the remaining household money and vanished with the child, leaving him to face massive family debts and a broken heart. He wrote with tears and emotion, attempting to tug at readers' hearts. At first, a few uninformed netizens sympathized with him, condemning the gold-digging, selfish wife, but the internet remembers. Soon, netizens dug up Jason's and marriage spending records. The Tiffany, Gucci, and Maldives receipts somehow leaked online. The timeline didn't match the frugal image he claimed in the post. Then, someone anonymously posted Ethan's hospital billing and overdue notices listing only Grace as the family contact. There were also blurry nighttime convenience store screenshots of Grace buying instant noodles alone. Next, the video of Jason slapping Grace in the ward, plus police issued domestic violence warnings. Finally, a heavy blow. Media uncovered Sophia's existence, confirming her status as the other woman, exposing Jason's mismanagement and massive reimbursements at Juwon Group. and revealing the real reason he was fired, negligence leading to his granddaughter's injury. Public opinion flipped instantly and with overwhelming force. Oh my God, buying hundreds of thousands in gifts for his mistress's daughter while his own son's ICU bills go unpaid? Abusive guy has the nerve to play the victim? That slap on his wife in the video was brutal. Living off others while pretending to be a golden son, peak audacity. The heiress of the Juan group has this kind of taste? Picking a loser like him? Abandoning his sick biological child to frolic with the mistress's daughter? He's trash. Jason's social media account was bombarded until he had to disable comments. Sophia and the Juan group were also caught in the storm. Their stock price plummeted. Engagements that were already on the fence were immediately called off. Chairman Zhuo was furious, publicly declaring that Sophia needed a cooling-off period and ordering her to study abroad and reflect properly. Within a week, Jason had socially died. Reduced to a nationwide joke and a moral villain, Sophia lost both fame and fortune, and was sent abroad to hide from the public eye. A stunt meant to elicit sympathy had turned into a shared disaster for both of them. Meanwhile, at the eye of the storm, Grace was walking hand in hand with Ethan along a quiet seaside boardwalk, completely unaware and unconcerned about the chaos behind her. My life had finally sailed into calm, warm waters. Ethan's Stars and Sea, under Anna's full support, was successfully published. At first, it didn't attract much attention, but soon, some parent-reading bloggers discovered it. They were moved by the book's delicate emotions, the resilient, optimistic mother and son duo, and its warm, healing illustrations. They began recommending it spontaneously. Word of mouth started to spread. This isn't a fairy tale, it's a real journey of a mother and her child. I cried and laughed reading it. Gentleness is the strongest power. When reading to my child, he hugged me tight. Thank you for this book. Sales quietly climbed from hundreds to thousands, eventually hitting regional bestseller lists. Then, on a seemingly ordinary Monday morning, Anna's overseas call woke me. She screamed on the line, "Grace, #1. The new book is at the top of the bestseller list. You did it." I held the phone, stunned. I opened the webpage. My name and book title were at the top. Below, reader reviews poured in, full of warmth and encouragement. The media started contacting me, calling me the year's biggest dark horse and a single mother author healing hearts with her art. I agreed to 2 written interviews with authoritative outlets but refused all video and in-depth requests. In my replies, I wrote, "The work itself says everything I want to say. My private life is irrelevant. Please focus on the story and the illustrations." I needed to protect Ethan. To protect the hard-won peace we had now. Ethan adapted well to his new school. The coastal air and structured life had strengthened his health. His recent checkup showed almost all indicators at the level of normal children. He fell in love with beach soccer. His skin tanned to a healthy wheat tone, and his laughter was as clear as the waves. We moved to a larger seaside rental, still by the water. There was a bright studio for me and a small room with a view of the stars for Ethan. Our life also gained another presence, Alex, my editor and Anna's local partner. From manuscript edits to publication promotion, he quietly supported us, professional and reliable. He never questioned my past, only cared about my work and Ethan's well-being. He would drop by with fresh fruit, help Ethan build a complicated Lego set, or leave a simple "take care of yourself" message when I work late. His presence was like the sea breeze, not intense, but steady, constant, reassuring. For the first time, I understood what it meant to be respected, not needed or possessed. One day, after a pre-book signing meeting, he drove Ethan and me home. Ethan fell asleep in the car. Alex quietly asked, "Do you have a direction for the new book yet?" "No rush, wait until you're ready." I stared at the night outside the window, feeling for the first time that the future could be something to look forward to, not a battlefield to endure with gritted teeth. Meanwhile, in a dim apartment somewhere in the city, Jason scrolled his phone. The trending news, Grace's picture book tops charts and single mom authors come back. The photos showed me at a book event, wearing a simple dress, head down signing, peaceful expression, a faint smile on my lips. Ethan looked healthy and lively, not the sickly child he remembered. The image of me was unfamiliar yet dazzling. He stared at the screen, fingers trembling. A mix of regret, jealousy, helplessness, and complete loss gripped his chest. He found the number he had long been blocked from, tried sending a friend request and message. "Grace, it's me. Can we talk?" "About Ethan, The message sent, preceded by a glaring red exclamation mark. He was completely locked out of our world. The picture book kept selling, rights sold to multiple countries. Ethan and I were fully settled, even buying a small seaside apartment of our own. I was no longer the desperate housewife begging doctors and rifling through invoices. I was Grace, a creator supporting herself and her child through her art and living well. I thought the last tie to the past was the divorce papers Jason still hadn't signed. My lawyer kept urging him, but there was no movement on his side until one ordinary afternoon. I went to pick up Ethan from school. At the gate, I saw a familiar yet strange figure, anxiously looking around. It was Jason. He had lost a lot of weight, his face gaunt, wearing an ill-fitting old suit, out of place among the well-dressed parents. When he saw me, his eyes lit up, and he rushed over. "Grace," he shouted, reaching for my arm. I stepped back, calmly withdrawing my hand. "Ethan's coming out soon. Don't make a scene here," I said evenly. "Grace, I know I was wrong. I really know I was wrong." His words tumbled out, desperate, reckless. "I've cut ties with Sophia. That woman is a snake. She deceived me. My heart has always had you and Ethan. Look, I have nothing now, only you two. Can we start over? I promise to treat you right, to make up for everything." He tried to approach, eyes full of pleading, calculation, and the frenzy of someone with nowhere left to turn. "Give me a chance, Grace, just one chance. Ethan needs a complete family. You need a man to take care of you. He doesn't need one." Ethan's voice came from beside me. He stood there with his small backpack, holding tightly to my clothes, looking up at Jason. His gaze was clear and sharp, unshaken and fearless. "I have Mom, and that's enough," Ethan continued, his voice calm beyond his ears. "You don't come near us again. Mom says only someone drowning will desperately clutch at a lifeline. You drag her down too." Jason froze, seemingly unable to comprehend a child's words. The other parents waiting to pick up their kids had already noticed the commotion, curious, scrutinizing. Even disapproving glances followed us. Some seemed to recognize Jason, whispering among themselves, "Isn't that the guy from the internet? Yeah, the one who abused his wife and abandoned his sick kid. And he has the nerve to show up here?" Jason's face flushed red and white in turns. Utterly humiliated, he tried to reach for me again, voice choked but still clinging to a last shred of authority. "Grace, a couple's vows count for something. Don't be so heartless." I shielded Ethan, took 2 steps toward the school gate security, then turned back to him and said simply, "Sign the papers. Everything else is off the table." With that, I held Ethan's hand and walked away, not once glancing at the man frozen in place, face pale and defeated. The sea breeze carried the distant laughter of children. Ethan squeezed my hand. "Mom, let's go home and have mango smoothies." Okay, the suffocating quagmire behind us had finally been left far behind. What he had begged for wasn't reconciliation, it was a lifeline, and we had already reached the shore. At the special signing event at the large book fair, the audience filled every seat. Young parents, children, literary enthusiasts. Warm spotlights illuminated the stage. After a brief sharing session, we entered the QA portion. A college student wearing a university sweatshirt stood up, took the microphone, and spoke clearly. "Ms. Grace, your illustrations are so warm and powerful, especially in depicting hope amid adversity. May I ask, how are you able to convey such pure warmth through your work even after experiencing those challenging times? How did you learn to coexist with pain, or even transform it?" The audience fell silent, attentive. I held the microphone, scanning the crowd. Then, in the shadows at the very back of the room, I saw a figure huddled low, wearing a hat. It was Jason, true to form. He had come, like a rat in the gutter. He only dared to peek from the dark. My heart remained calm, undisturbed. I returned my gaze to the student and smiled. "Thank you for your question." I paused, my voice carrying clearly through the microphone. "For me, learning to convey warmth may have started with learning to let go." A subtle stir rippled through the audience. Not an avoidance, but a deliberate clearing. I continued slowly, as if sorting my own thoughts, and as if making a final declaration to that shadowy corner. You remove people and things that drain you, hurt you, or drag you down from the core of your life. Like cleaning out junk files from a computer or sweeping dust from a room regularly. When you make space, sunlight can enter and new, beautiful things can take root. Pain doesn't need to be endured forever. Some pain exists simply to remind you to leave the wrong place and move toward the right one. When you truly step into the light of a new life, those hardships become a blurry backdrop, not the sky that hangs over you. So if there's any method I can share. I looked over countless expectant eyes in the audience and slowly said, it's to always keep the courage to leave and the determination to rebuild. Your brush, your words, your life should create value and beauty for you and the people you love. As for the rest, let them stay in their own past, where they belong. When I finished, there was a brief silence. Then the applause erupted, loud and sustained. I saw that figure in the back stir, then hastily stand, head down, and slip out through the side door, disappearing into the shadows, like a stain finally wiped clean. I didn't pause, I smiled and moved on to the next session. Inside, that wasteland of my heart was quiet, windless, echo-free. True victory isn't striding over ruins to flaunt scars, it's walking forward with healed wounds, without looking back, toward your own stars and sea. He was gone, completely erased from my world. Autumn arrived. Ethan started first grade. He carried his small backpack, wore his neat uniform, and waved at me in front of his bright new school, his smile radiant. Fearless of the unfamiliar surroundings, his health report lay in my desk drawer, all indicators squarely within the normal range. The child who once constantly battled seizures and pneumonia had been left behind, a memory now distant. I had already started conceptualizing my second picture book, a story about magical little fish in the ocean. Inspired by countless evenings of tide chasing with Ethan, life moved forward steadily, like tides, filled with comforting details. Alex appeared more often. He was no longer just an editor. He remembered Ethan's fascination with astronomy, bringing the latest constellation projectors, checked balcony flower pots on typhoon days, and during my peak deadline pressure, just happened to take Ethan to the aquarium for the afternoon, giving me uninterrupted creative time. He never overstepped, yet his care was everywhere. One weekend afternoon, he invited Ethan and me to see a house, not look at houses, but truly see it, a 2-story home, closer to the sea, with a small courtyard and terrace, minimalist and cozy inside. Sunlight spilling into every corner. The top floor had a perfect arched space with 2 walls of floor-to-ceiling windows facing the ocean, a dream studio. This house. I hesitated. I bought it, Alex said plainly, as if remarking on the weather. The owner was eager to sell. The price was right. I thought it's perfect for creativity and for Ethan growing up. The air by the sea is good. He paused, then looked at me, honest and warm. Of course, it's too big for me alone. So I want to formally invite you, Ethan, you and your son, as my most important partners, and people I hope to walk alongside in the future, to consider moving in. We can design and arrange it together, or if you don't feel it's right, I can find somewhere else. I just want to be closer, make caring for you easier. He didn't say marry me, or offer any grand promises. He simply gave a possibility for a shared future, leaving the choice entirely to me. I froze, heart pounding. Ethan tugged on my sleeve, looked up at me, eyes bright, and whispered clearly, Mom, Uncle Alex is more like a dad than that other guy. A child's words, simple, yet hitting straight to the heart. I looked at Alex. He waited nervously, ears slightly red. No pressure. The sea breeze swept through the empty house, carrying a salty, free scent. The hard shell my heart had built around past scars quietly cracked in the face of this man's steady, lasting warmth. Light came streaming in. I need to think about it, I said, voice a little dry. Of course. Alex nodded immediately, smiling. Whenever you're ready. No rush. On the way back, Ethan had fallen asleep in the back seat. Alex drove quietly. I stared out the window at the rushing coastline, and for the first time, I felt that the word happiness didn't have to come with pain or tearing. It could arrive quietly. It could be calm, steady, like the rising sun each day, like the tides that come on time. A few days after visiting Alex's new house, a plain courier envelope arrived at my studio. The sender was anonymous, with a return address at a law firm. I opened it. Inside were 2 items. One was the divorce agreement, already signed and sealed by Jason Chen. The terms were exactly as my lawyer had first proposed. Custody of Ethan went to me. He gave up visitation rights. He paid a tiny lump sum as compensation. All other property, including the marital home, was entirely off limits to me. He signed decisively, as if eager to get rid of something. The other was a flat, carefully foam-wrapped old object. I tore off the packaging, and my fingers froze. It was a slightly chipped tin mooncake box, an old design with a gaudy flowers and full moon print. I recognized it. It was from our first year of marriage, when money was tight and we could only afford a small mooncake for mid-autumn. After we ate it, Jason said the box was pretty and should be kept. Later, it became a container for tiny important items. A copy of our marriage certificate, the first ultrasound report, Ethan's first lost baby tooth, a faded birthday card he once gave me. On the lid was a faded label, Jason's early clumsy cursive in English. My family. I held that light yet heavy box in the sunlight of my studio for a long time. Memories surged. But no longer sharp pain, only a distant, almost numb haze. Those family mementos once treasured now seemed like a pile of dusty, laughable fragments. The label felt like a giant irony. I opened the box. It was empty. All the keepsakes were gone, only the lingering sweet smell of mooncakes remained, and a deeper emptiness. And that was fine. I picked up the divorce agreement, flipped to the last page, and looked at his familiar, now utterly alien, signature. Then I folded the agreement gently and placed it inside the empty My Family mooncake tin. I closed the lid. Click. I went to the storage cabinet, opened the rarely used bottom compartment, and slid the tin into the back. I closed the door. Then I returned to my easel. Sunlight fell perfectly across my unfinished painting, a colorful little fish twirling lightly in deep blue water. No pause, no sorrow, no unnecessary pity or nostalgia. Just archiving an old object that should have been dealt with long ago. That's it. The real ending isn't a grand ceremony, it's this quiet, complete closure. By the sea, at dusk, the massive sun slowly sank into the horizon, painting the sky in waves with warm gold and red. Ethan and a few new friends ran along the shore, chasing the waves, their laughter mixing with the calls of seagulls. Vibrant and alive, I sat at my easel on the terrace, the last rays gilding my painting. On the final page of the new book, countless little fish of all shapes swam freely through the deep, starlit water, each scale gleaming with confidence. In the corner of the page was the title, The Fish Has Its World. That morning, Anna called, her voice ecstatic. Global rights. Grace. 7 languages. First print record breaking. You did it. You really did it. I didn't feel the wild joy I imagined, only a deep, full peace, like a ship finally entering a calm harbor, releasing all sails and worries. Alex came out with 2 glasses of lemonade, one for me, one for himself, standing quietly behind me, watching my painting, glancing at Ethan running on the beach, his face serene and satisfied. He didn't speak, but his presence alone was like a solid reef by the sea, silently taking the brunt of the waves, supporting calm. I put down my brush, took the glass, and smiled at him. He returned the smile and naturally brushed a strand of hair off my face that the sea wind had blown there. Simple, intimate, respectful. Ethan came running, clutching a pretty seashell he'd found. Excited, he said, "Mom, Uncle Alex, listen. You can hear the waves inside." We leaned in, and sure enough, faint, distant roars could be heard. The sun had fully set. The sky glowed purple and red. The waves moved in gentle rhythm. I leaned back in my chair, taking in everything before me: a healthy son, unfinished but hopeful artwork, a trustworthy partner, and the vast, free ocean stretching out ahead. And I realized clearly, I was no longer anyone's wife. The label was gone. I was no longer a sacrificial victim bound by motherhood. The chains were broken. I was no longer a prisoner in the shadows of the past. The cage was shattered. I was Grace, a creator telling stories with my brush, a mother loved by her son, and loving him in return, a free individual who could chart her own course in life. Birds soared through the sky. Fish swam freely in the ocean. They were never meant to travel together. Why force it? Each has their own expanse, each their own destination. Ethan squeezed in between Alex and me on the chair, his little hands pulling at each of us, resting his head against my arm. Watching the stars slowly appear. "Mom, can we come to the beach again tomorrow?" "Yes." "Will Uncle Alex come too?" "Yes." The sea breeze was gentle, the stars low. The ultimate triumph, I realized, wasn't stepping on an enemy. It was finally, completely, and steadily winning in the life I had chosen for myself.